Everyone, hope you're well. Welcome once again to the Book of Ages, a channel that I created out of obedience to disciple you and draw you closer to God. So quickly we'll move to our topic of today, which is flee sexual immorality. And we were talking about the state of the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And before the video, our first part ended, I was talking about how sin sears the conscience, okay? And when it sears your conscience, you become bold in the sin. And when you become bold in sin, the people that were looking up to you start emulating your sinful ways because you are influencing them, whether knowing or unknowingly. You are influencing them to behave like you. And this makes you such a dangerous person in the church, especially if you are of a higher standing in the church or within the church circles. It makes you such a dangerous person in the kingdom because the enemy can use you to bring others to walk in darkness as you're already walking in darkness. And therefore, what's Paul's recommendation? Paul is saying in chapter 5 of 1 Corinthians, verse 5, hand this man over to Satan so that his sinful nature may be destroyed and his spirit saved on the day of the Lord. Okay? So what Paul is simply saying is, if you have such a person that is unrepentant of his sins, okay? If you have such a person that is unrepentant of his sins and is bold in the things that he's doing that are contrary to the law of Christ, and is even openly displaying and telling you guys how he's enjoying the pleasures of sin with his mother-in-law, with someone's wife, or is openly displaying his sexual escapades before the congregation, thinking that this is part of his freedoms in Christ, this man is to be released outside so that he can enjoy the things of the world. He is to be left to go outside and enjoy the pleasures of sin outside the church. Okay? And the reason why this is important is because this person is going to be a stumbling block to the believers, to the young believers who are learning the things of God, who are learning about purity. The concept of purity amongst the believers is going to be skewed because of this one man. Okay? And therefore he is to be released to the outside world so that he can enjoy these things outside the walls of Christ, okay? Or of the church. The sure thing about this is the body will be destroyed, as Paul is saying. Sin destroys you. And if you've never indulged in sin, please take our words for it. Sin will destroy you. Sin will make you tired. Sin is, and especially sexual immorality, it wears you down, okay? It brings you down to your knees. And if you are such a person that is not quick to call upon the name of God, then you're going to have a rough time because you're going to be tired, like I mean physically tired. Okay? The consequences of sin they vary. They could vary from you getting into an altercation with someone's husband, okay, or someone's wife. You getting into I don't know, they could lead to job losses. They could lead to worst case scenario. It could lead to loss of lives, okay, because of the emotions that betrayal brings amongst different individuals, okay. It could lead to physical harm amongst the parties involved. It could also lead to various infirmities that can come as a result of it, okay? So the consequences of sexual immorality are various, it's an array of consequences that I won't go into. But what I'll tell you is, handing over someone to the world will allow the enemy to sift this person, okay? So that the sins that he thought that he was enjoying, or the things that he thought that were pleasurable, he can eat them. He can now eat them in bulk, okay? or eat them in large quantities, so that if you are going for alcohol, go for it in large quantities. You let this person enjoy these things and experience these things, because in doing so, the body will be destroyed, but he'll be brought to his knees. He will recognize that it is God that was actually keeping you from the dangers of these sins. Okay? And therefore you'll crawl back to God. That's what Paul is saying, that his body will be saved on the last day. Okay? Then in verse, let me see, where is it? In verse 6, your boasting is not good. Don't you know that a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough? That's what I was saying, that this one person can lead to a destruction of the faith amongst these other believers. Okay? Get rid of the old yeast, that you may be a new batch without yeast, as you really are. For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed. Therefore, let us keep the festival not with old yeast, the yeast of malice and wickedness, but with with bread without yeast, the bread of sincerity and truth. So in the Old Testament, the yeast, the bread, the unleavened bread, was baked without yeast. Okay, and this symbolized holy body. Okay, Christ told us that He is the bread of life. Okay, it's a holy body that that does not have leaven of the yeast. Okay, is a body that is not defiled, and this is what Christ expects from us. Okay, these are reasonable sacrifice, that our body should be pure. If your body if you indulge in sexual immorality, it means that you have leavened your body, you have leavened your bread. Okay, you've added the yeast to the bread, and therefore your body is not pure anymore. Okay, and that's what Christ is telling us, that our bodies, they need to be pure before Him, and therefore we should not be partaking in sin. And this is what Paul is telling them, that keep the feast with bread that is not leavened, unleavened bread, that bread that does not have yeast in it, because this bread is bread that is pure. Your body should be in such a way that you're walking in sexual purity. Okay, that's what Paul is saying, in sexual purity. Okay, the bread of sincerity and truth. Your body, you should be walking in sincerity and truth. Okay, I have written to you in my letter not to associate with the sexually immoral people. Not all, meaning the people of this world who are immoral, or the greedy, or the swindlers, or idolaters. In that case, you would have to leave this world. But now I'm writing to you that you must not associate with anyone who calls himself a brother, but is sexually immoral, greedy, idolater, or slanderer, a drunkard, or a swindler. With such man, don't even eat. So what he's telling them is, in times past, I've written to you severally that do not associate with the sexually immoral or these other things that is listed. But I'm not telling you that not to associate with people of the world, because it would mean that you are going to walk alone, which is impossible, and you are not going to interact with anyone, because in this world we are not alone. No man is an island. Okay, and therefore you are going to interact with many people. Okay, even the people who are ungodly, who don't know Christ outrightly. So you're going to interact with everyone. So what Paul is simply saying is that I am warning you against interacting with the sexually immoral in church. I am warning you against the brothers in church who are walking in darkness, who are sexually immoral, who are idolaters, who are who are swindlers, who are drunkards. These are the people that I'm warning you about. The people who are living in sin in church. People who are believers but are still comfortable in walking in sexual immorality. And Paul is saying, I'm not warning you against those people who are walking in grace and who are trying so hard to flee sexual immorality. I'm warning you against those who are boastful in their wicked ways. Those who are trying to influence you to walk as they do. Those people are telling you that I have several women in my life, or several men in my life that I'm juggling, okay? And I am a believer, so it's okay to do these things. These are the people that Paul is warning you against, so that you may walk in a way that is sacred and truthful before God. Okay? See you in the next part.